Home Secretary Suella Braverman is on a mission, and that mission is to demonstrate that people from ethnic minority backgrounds can also say incredibly racist things, and she's doing amazing, sweetie. Most recently, Braverman made some incredibly inflammatory remarks about British Pakistani men and child sexual exploitation.
What we've seen is a practice whereby vulnerable white English girls, sometimes in care, sometimes who are in challenging circumstances, being pursued and raped and drugged and harmed by gangs of British Pakistani men who've worked in child abuse rings or networks.
Now, that claim has sparked ongoing outrage, not least because none of the evidence around group-based child sexual exploitation supports Braverman's claims that it's perpetrated mostly by British Pakistani men. As it has been widely noted, the Home Office's own 2020 research found that the majority of child sexual abuse gangs are made up of white men under the age of 30. That didn't stop Braverman trucking on, though, and now a leading Tory peer has condemned what she calls the Home Secretary's racist rhetoric. Former Conservative Party chair, Baroness Wolsey, has been on a mini-media tour attempting to combat some of the damage wrought by what she refers to as Braverman's shock jock language. Writing in The Guardian on Wednesday evening, Wolsey said this: Braverman's own ethnic origin has shielded her from criticism for too long. Many people within the Conservative Party have been hesitant to call out what has been staring members in the face. They struggle to hold an ethnic minority MP to account in the same way they would a white parliamentarian. This needs to change. If we're going to start having honest conversations, let's start by saying this: black and brown people can be racist too. Wolsey goes on to point out this: Braverman is a trained barrister. If somebody who is trained to be an advocate cannot communicate on serious issues in a thoughtful, reasonable, evidence-based way, that's an issue of incompetence. Whether this consistent use of racist rhetoric is strategy or incompetence, however, doesn't matter. Both show she is not fit to hold high office. Criticising Braverman's language is not about shutting down important debate about policy or being culturally sensitive. It's about demanding a Home Secretary who makes policy announcements that are accurate and based on fact and evidence, which Braverman has failed to do. Not fit to hold high office. Pretty unequivocal stuff. Wolsey doubled down on her criticism Thursday morning while speaking to BBC News. I've had to warn my son that if people start swearing and shouting, to just remove himself from the situation to avoid it escalating into an attack. Why should I be having these conversations with my son, she told BBC News. I've had to tell my dad that if you go to the mosque, don't walk home. We need to have someone taking him and bring him back every day. In that piece, Baroness Wolsey said that Suella Braverman's racist rhetoric meant that she was worried about potential attacks upon South Asian individuals. Now, interestingly, in 2012, Baroness Wolsey caused some controversy of her own when she spoke about child sexual exploitation, very hard to get out, in Rochdale. Then she was serving as Tory co-chair, and she told the Evening Standard this: There is a small minority of Pakistani men who believe that white girls are fair game. We have to be prepared to say that. You can only start solving a problem if you acknowledge it first. In mosque after mosque after mosque, this should be raised as an issue so that anybody who is remotely involved should start to feel the community is turning on them. Communities have a responsibility to stand up and say, this is wrong, this will not be tolerated. Now, at the time, Wolsey's comments were spun a bit by the press as putting race at the heart of child sexual exploitation. She claimed she was trying to be nuanced about it and acknowledge a problem. She was criticised, however, by organisations like End Violence Against Women Coalition, who said that an excessive focus on ethnicity in cases of exploitation, rather than the exploitation itself, is misleading. Very, very fair and accurate. But just over a decade later, and Wolsey is making similar critiques of Braverman's language. Is she wrong, though? Sean, what do you make of Baroness Wolsey's apparent change in perspective?
I think at a time when she was on the rise during the sort of Cameron era of the Conservative-led coalition government, she perhaps somewhat naively believed, and clearly still does because she remains in the party, in a kind of soft conservatism. It's that kind of same thing as when Theresa May said they were no longer, I can't remember, to paraphrase, the bad guys, when David Cameron was the champion of gay marriage and so on. This idea of a kind of socially progressive but economically conservative party. I think she had a lot of hope invested in that model of conservatism in the UK, perhaps 13 years ago. And of course, what she has probably seen in her time is an increasing lurch to the right, not just on economics, but on social policy, including around race too. She has constantly been trying to draw attention to Islamophobia within the Conservative Party. She is aware, obviously, that it has racist tendencies. And I think perhaps now that she is so removed from, real power within the centre of gravity within the Tory party, if you like, she perhaps has cause for reflection. And maybe as well, we just all, with age and experience, we reflect on things. And it's not particularly, wise necessarily to be peddling racist rhetoric that sooner or later will be in the hands of people who will lump you in with the people that you are slurring. And that is the case if you are a British Asian Tory politician and you are furthering racist tropes about British Asians. Like, of course, sooner or later, that is going to rebound, if not on you personally, on your family members, on men in your family. So perhaps she's just got eyes and, a bit of common sense about where this can all go. And she doesn't have that thirst for power that she maybe once had and that Suella Braverman currently does.